Hello and welcome to the MovieKing Podcast. My name is David Jurmann and I'll be your host. On today's episode, I'm going to review the Super Mario Galaxy movie. So this is a movie I was both excited for and very hesitant about, because on one hand, I'm a very big fan of Mario. Ever since I was a kid, I've loved the Mario games. Granted, I'm not, as well versed as hardcore fans. I'm sure like a lot of older people especially who really grew up with those games, especially like the originals in their childhood, have a bigger attachment to the character, but to me, they're some of my favorite games, and I've just been playing a lot of them in recent years especially, but as a kid, I, of course, loved Mario Kart. I really liked Super Mario Bros. On my 3DS, I played, like, the original, Mario games a bit, including, like, Donkey Kong and all those other Nintendo classics, so I really do love the Mario properties and Nintendo properties in general. I really like. I need to get more in on like Zelda and Metroid and stuff like that. But overall, really a big fan of Nintendo. And last year, I went to Universal Studios largely to see the Mario area at Epic Universe, and I literally wore a Mario shirt when I went to see this movie, and I even bought the Mario-themed Dippin' Dots at the theater. So I think to say that I'm at least a pretty sizable Mario fan is a fair statement. I think that's valid. I think you can at least acknowledge, like, okay, this guy likes Mario a bit, maybe a little too much, but, but he likes it. But, and that's a big but, this movie is made by Illumination Entertainment, and they don't exactly have the best track record with movies. Aside from the first couple of Despicable Me films, I think those are both very good, and the Sing films, which are pretty solid, they're usually very mediocre and safe. I would say that overall, Illumination just doesn't try very much. It's very unfortunate because they have great animation. Like, their visual department looks very good. They make movies for a lot cheaper than other animation studios. I think a lot of that is because it's not done in-house. It's kind of outsourced out of the country. Just a little unfortunate, but you can't deny that their movies look very good. It's very frustrating to me that with such, great talent in the animation department, these movies just don't have a very good quality story. They don't have, very good writing. And I think the last bunch of stuff they made, Migration aside, I mean, that was a decent little film. But, that aside, their last bunch of movies have been kind of bad. I would say Despicable Me 4 in particular was one of the worst things they've made. Like, that actually, I was actually pretty excited for that movie, even though I didn't like the third very much. And that movie just made me, give up on Illumination entirely for a minute. I was like, I don't have faith in them anymore. I don't think they can make anything good anymore. It really broke me. Yes, Despicable Me 4 of all things was the movie that broke me, but even that aside, I thought the first Super Mario Bros. Movie was frankly not good. The movie had great animation, which I, just mentioned, and that's true with all their films, and it didn't even have much of a story in that film, but the bigger issues to me were that the characters had very little development. Like, I didn't learn anything really about anyone in the movie. The plot is insanely rushed, the jokes aren't very funny, and there are way too many songs throughout the movie, like 80s songs, like Take On Me, Mr. Blue Sky, stuff like that, instead of the score. And I just think there were a lot of weak points in there. I mean, the casting ended up being fine. Like, I was very nervous about a lot of the casting choices in the movie, but that's honestly far from the weakest part of that film. Like, I'd say even Chris Pratt ended up being a pleasant surprise in the movie. Like, you could tell he was doing something a little different with his voice. Like, in the trailer, I was like, oh, this just sounds like Chris Pratt. I think once you watch the movie, you can kind of see, like, okay, this guy actually is putting on a little bit of a performance here. And they even do, like, a sort of a very cheesy commercial bit in the beginning of that film where he's doing the Mario voice, and he actually does a good job at it, so he could do it if he wanted to, or if the directing team wanted him to, but I'm glad they didn't. I think that would have gotten annoying. But anyway, this new movie was coming out, and I, for whatever reason, felt a little more hopeful about it. The trailers looked good to me, a bit more action-packed. The additions of Yoshi, Rosalina, and Bowser Jr. from the games got me excited. and the visuals looked even more stunning. And, this is also coming from someone who literally just played the first Super Mario Galaxy for the first time, actually. I never even played it as a kid, despite growing up with the Wii. And that was a great game, so that made me even more excited. I was like, oh, this game is actually great. Like, they have a lot they can take from, a lot of stuff they can get inspired from. But alas, I'm sad to say that this movie is even worse than the first one. I don't hate the first movie. I don't think it's terrible. But I would say it's a very mediocre movie as a Mario fan. And if you're not a Mario fan, I think it's just pretty bad. But as for what's good in the Super Mario Galaxy movie, it's still a lot of what I liked before. Beautiful animation. I mean, seriously, I actually want to shout this out because this movie looks fantastic. It's ridiculously colorful, very vibrant. It captures the feeling and look of this world perfectly. The character designs are once again spot on, and the level of detail is great here. You really see a lot there. Of course, I had to see this movie in IMAX because I really just wanted to, I'm like, if I'm gonna see this movie, if I know that it's not gonna be a great movie, besides the visuals, I want to at least get the most out of that department. I was like, I'm gonna see this on the biggest screen possible, okay? But, I think you have that going for it. Brian Tyler's score is once again perfect, just like the first film, and it has a ton of nods to the game, which are really great. There are a bunch of Easter eggs throughout the film for fans of the game to catch, and I got a bunch of those. The action sequences are great in this movie, super energetic, and there's this, like, one take shot kind of like the characters running as stuff is being destroyed, and that was really good, probably one of the best scenes in the film. But really, that's about where my positives end, and I know that kind of just rushed through all that, but that's really about it. I mean, even though I am a fan of the games, it's hard not to judge this just as a movie, like just as a film. This doesn't have enough going for it, even just to kind of turn my brain off a little bit and have fun. Because even though there's a lot for fans, and I can't deny that I was very pleased by a lot of that, I can't imagine a single person who isn't familiar with them and is older than 12 years old to care for this movie. The story is practically non-existent, and I've seen a lot of controversy online for literally no reason. Like, one group here is saying that the movie doesn't need a story, and it's insane to expect one from a Mario movie. But they're acting like people were expecting a Christopher Nolan-level story, and that's just not the truth. Like, no one ever expected that. No one ever said they were expecting Inception-level storytelling in a Mario movie. No one said that. I certainly was not expecting that. I don't expect much story in a Mario movie. I expect, maybe a little something, but I'm not looking for much more than that. But then another group of people is saying that it's ridiculous that you could even enjoy the movie without a story. Like, how dare you even like this movie without any kind of story in it? And I think both groups are in the wrong. I mean, yes, it should have a little bit of story. I think the middle ground here is, yes, there should be a little bit of plot, but also, we're not looking for much deeper than it needs to be. Like, these are not story-based games. But I think the main point, and I've seen a lot of people make this point, and it's a very valid one, is that games are not, not necessarily a storytelling medium. Video games you don't play necessarily for the story, and I'm not saying they can't have story, because my favorite game of all time does have story, and that's The Last of Us Part 2. I know, a bit of a controversial choice, but love that game. First game's also amazing, but those are very story-driven games, and that's partly why they appeal to me, because the gameplay is great and the story's great. But Mario's not about story, it's about gameplay, and that's fine. But when you're making a movie, you need a little more story to go with it, because sitting there watching, someone, it's like sitting there watching someone play a Mario game. Like, that's not as fun as playing the game yourself. And you need a little more story in there to satisfy you for 2 hours or an hour and a half, whatever it is. You need a little more meat on there to just enjoy. And I don't know, and it's just, I don't expect much story from a Mario movie. I never have and never will. And that's not the problem with these movies. I mean, maybe a little bit more with this one because of how sloppy it is and how, like, unclear and incoherent it comes across. But the first film didn't have much of a story and was fine in that regard. I was not mad at the first movie because it didn't have much story. I was mad because it didn't do a lot of other things I cared about. You don't need a very plot-heavy film. But I think what you do need is a better script that balances these ideas and plot lines better. You need better character work, so we at least care about the people in the movie more, so we at least care about what's going on. I mean, I could barely tell you a single thing about any character in this movie besides stuff we already know from the games. And frankly, it feels like Illumination doesn't think anyone cares. They're happy to dangle keys in your face so long as you'll give them money to do it. And it's frustrating to me because I want more out of these movies. I mean, I keep giving them money, so I'm part of the problem, but I want more out of these movies than what they're giving me. Like, I want more character work. Not a ton, just enough that I care about these people and like the movies more. Like, there's one big supporting character in this movie who wasn't revealed until the last minute in marketing and should have been a surprise. I don't know why they revealed him. It wasn't going to make, it wasn't going to make or break this movie's financial case. Like, this movie was going to make a ton of money no matter what. It didn't get anyone to watch the movie who wouldn't have gone anyway, so I don't really know what the point was. In any case, this character contributed practically nothing to the story and could have been replaced by literally anyone else. And that was frustrating to me because I'm like, why is he in the movie? I mean, I get it, fan service, great, but like, what is he doing here? It was just very frustrating, and the whole movie's like this. I mean, you also have a character like Yoshi who just shows up and stays for the rest of the movie. He's just with the lead characters for the whole movie and doesn't do anything. I mean, he's played by Donald Glover, which is awesome, I guess. Like, I love that guy, but he could have been replaced by literally anyone else as a character. But it's like, who cares? It's Yoshi, right? Well, I care, and I'd at least like a little bit of thought put into the script. That's just me. I don't know. I mean, on one hand, like, you can tell the directors really care about these movies. Like, the world, the animation, the score, all of it feels like it's by people who care. And then you have the script, which feels like it was written in a week without any thought having gone into it. Just kind of tossed in there, just made without any thought put into it. And that's unfortunate. I just think that's kind of frustrating for a movie that has such a big fan base for, And look, some people really like this movie, and I have nothing against those people. If you like this movie, you don't care that it doesn't have a story, I'm like, great, I don't want to rain on your parade. But to me, these movies need a little more. Like, this is even worse than bare minimum. Like, it's just, to me, it just feels lazy. And that's, like, the worst thing you can do with lazy. Like, at that point, I could just have an AI-generated Mario movie, and I would be just as satisfied with that. Maybe not as much, because it wouldn't be visually appealing. That would actually be, like, the only thing this movie does well, gone. But it's frustrating. I don't know what else to say about that, but it's pitiful to me that this movie somehow makes the story in the first one look good, when it was pretty bare minimum to begin with. Like, there wasn't much lower you could go with it, but they somehow made it go lower. And I'll say this, I think a lot of it would be redeemable if the characters were better, which is kind of the point I've been making this whole time. Like, if the characters were better, then I would be much more okay with a lot of this, because I would actually care about these people and what they're going through. But, like, you just get such bare minimum character arcs. Like, this is really a non-spoiler, but it's just like, Mario likes Peach, which we all know from the games, and, the whole thing is like, Luigi keeps telling him, like, oh, go tell her you like her, and it's just like, that's it. That's all the character development Mario gets in this movie, and it's like, nothing comes from it, really. We don't get much more than that, and it's like, you could do better than this. Like, what are you doing? I don't know, but you have that, and the movie doesn't really make me laugh either, and I think I only chuckled like a few times throughout the film. And one of those times was from the tiny Bowser joke that was shown in literally every trailer for this movie. So it's like, it wasn't even doing its job in making me laugh. But speaking of Bowser, he's probably the only character this movie gets right, kind of. Even then, I think it was pretty rushed and kind of sloppy, but there's a solid idea in having him claim that he's changed since the first film because, Bowser is a villain, and then seeing whether that actually ends up being true or not, seeing kind of, him toying with that idea of like, oh, am I changed? Am I a good person now? And that was actually kind of interesting. I was like, I'd like to see more from that. We get a bit of a look at Bowser Jr. and his relationship with his dad, or lack thereof. And that's probably the one thing in this story that actually had me kind of engaged, because I was like, oh, they're actually trying here. They're trying with some, like, actual development and, backstory to these characters. Like, like, I didn't know they could do that. But I don't know, just this film juggles way too much and therefore never lets anyone shine. Mario and Luigi feel sidelined in their own movie. Yoshi's just hanging out. Peach has more to do in this movie, but it's not very interesting, frankly. It actually felt a lot like Canto Bight in The Last Jedi, which I don't really mind that in that movie, but here it's not a compliment. Rosalina is just a plot device. I don't even know why. I mean, of course she has to be here because, Mario Galaxy, and she should have had a lot more to do, but just reduced to a plot device. Bowser Jr. doesn't get enough development, and as I mentioned, side characters like Yoshi, Toad, and the unnamed supporting character, who I talked about before, have little to nothing to contribute to the story. So why are they all here? I don't know. Fan service. Again, that's all this movie has to offer. It's just fan service, nostalgia, dangling key, like anything you can name just to make you feel something towards Mario. Like, it's there. But where does that leave me? Frankly, just disappointed. Very disappointed. I wanted to like this movie so bad, but there's really nothing here for anyone besides references and colorful visuals. Those things are all you can get out of this movie. And again, if you like this movie, if you're a Mario fan and you enjoyed the film, that's great. I think that's awesome, really. But to me, it just wasn't enough. As a Mario fan, I got some enjoyment out of that stuff. But is it enough to justify paying for a ticket, especially in like a premium format like IMAX or Dolby or 4DX, whatever it may be? I don't think so. I don't think it's really enough. I mean, you could just stream this on Peacock later and, get just as much out of it on your OLED TV. Of course, I am very much in favor of theaters, so I think you should support theaters and support the movie in theaters if you're going to support it at all. But at the same time, I'm like, if you don't give this movie more money, maybe they'll learn something. I don't know. I hope so. I don't know. But I'll be real with you. If I were to just rate this movie as a regular moviegoer with no investment in Mario at all, I'd probably rate this a D+. But as a fan, I got a little more enjoyment out of it, so I'll bump it up to a C-. But if you're looking for something fun to watch with your kids in theaters, or just a good animated movie in general, please go support and see Hoppers. It's great. I've seen it 4 times now, and it has so much more to offer than this movie. I mean, even Project Hail Mary, another really good movie that's out there right now, that I would also say is pretty family-friendly. Maybe a little less than Hoppers, but still, I think a lot of people will get enjoyment out of that film. So there's more to see than Mario. I mean, and it's kind of the shame, actually, because like Mario's going to make so much more money than probably either of those movies, but those movies are both more than twice as good as this. So, I don't know. That's kind of my rant on the Super Mario Galaxy movie. I don't have much more to say. I've literally just been kind of doing this all in a single take. I'm out of breath right now. I need to drink some water. But yeah, so that about does it for this episode. If you want to follow my reviews, you can find me on Letterboxd at MovieKing1224. You can also listen to this podcast on your favorite apps such as Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. If you have any comments or feedback, I would love to hear it and improve the show. And of course, if you've enjoyed this episode, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell to hear more like it. I appreciate you all so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.